My own family erased me from the inheritance. What they didn't know was I was holding the real will. I came back to my hometown after 7 long years. The bus stopped near the old road, and for a moment, I just sat there, holding my bag, breathing slowly. The air felt the same, dusty, warm, and heavy with memories. Nothing had really changed, yet everything felt different. I had changed. As I walked toward my family house, my steps slowed. The street was quiet. The small shops were still there. The old tree near the corner still leaned to the left, just like it used to. I remembered sitting under it with Grandpa when I was young. He would tell me stories and say I was the one who listened the most. The house came into view. It looked smaller than I remembered. The paint was fading. The walls had cracks, but the gate still made that same sharp sound when I pushed it open. That sound hit me hard. It was like the house recognized me before anyone else did. Inside, voices stopped. My father sat at the dining table. His back was straight, his face stiff. He looked older, but not softer. Across from him stood my brother. Well-dressed, confident, smiling like this place belonged only to him now. Then I saw her. Aisha stood near the window. The light fell on her face, but she didn't smile. She didn't move. She looked like someone caught between wanting to run and being unable to move at all. My chest tightened. I hadn't seen her since the day I left town with nothing but a small bag and a broken heart. Back then, she cried and said things would get better. Then she stayed. I disappeared. Dad cleared his throat. "So, you came," he said, not warmly, not angrily. Just empty. "Yes," I replied. He didn't ask how I was. He didn't ask where I had been. Instead, he picked up some papers from the table and spoke like he was reading a report. "Your brother received Grandpa's inheritance," he said. "The land, the house, the savings, everything." The words landed slowly, one by one. My brother smiled wider. He didn't look at me. He just nodded, like this was always meant to be this way. I looked at Aisha. She still wouldn't meet my eyes. A memory pushed forward, Grandpa sitting beside me, saying, "Some truths take time, son." I swallowed. 7 years ago, everything went wrong. Grandpa died suddenly. Important papers disappeared. And somehow, I became the problem. They said I tried to take what wasn't mine. They said I betrayed the family. I didn't shout. I didn't fight. I just left. Now, standing in that same house, the silence felt heavier than before. Dad finally looked at me. "This is how it is," he said. "You should accept it." I nodded slowly. Not because I agreed, but because I knew something they didn't. My brother kept smiling. Dad looked relieved, like a burden was lifted. Aisha turned away, pretending to fix the curtain. Her shoulders shook just a little. That's when I knew. The past wasn't finished. And this story wasn't over yet. We sat together at the dining table, but it didn't feel like family. It felt like strangers forced into the same room. The ceiling fan hummed softly above us. The sound filled the silence when no one wanted to speak. Dad shuffled the papers again and again, as if the noise made him feel in control. My brother leaned back in his chair, relaxed, confident, already living a future that didn't include me. Aisha sat quietly at the edge of the table. Her hands were folded tightly in her lap. She kept her eyes down, staring at the floor like it might open and swallow her. "So," my brother said casually, breaking the silence, "what are you doing these days?" His voice sounded polite, but I could hear something else beneath it. A challenge. Maybe even fear. "I work," I replied simply. "I live." He laughed lightly. "Good. I thought maybe you'd come back asking for help." Dad looked up sharply, then nodded as if he agreed with him. "No one owes you anything now," Dad said. "That chapter is closed." Closed. The word echoed in my head. 7 years ago, this same table had been covered in grief. Grandpa's photo stood in the center. Aisha cried quietly beside me. Dad didn't cry at all. He just kept saying we needed to settle things quickly. That night, documents went missing. That night, Dad looked at me like I was no longer his son. I remembered Aisha grabbing my arm back then, whispering, "Please don't argue. Just go. This will only get worse." Now, I looked at her again. "Aisha," I said softly. "You live here now." She flinched at the sound of her name. "Yes," she answered after a pause. "I help your father. With the house." "With the house," my brother repeated, smiling. "She's family now." Something inside me tightened. I nodded slowly, hiding what I felt. "That's nice." Her fingers trembled. She pressed them together to stop the shaking. Dad stood up. "I'll call the lawyer later. Everything is already done." "Already done," my brother said again, proud. I watched Aisha's face as they spoke. Every time Dad mentioned papers or signatures, her breathing changed. Shallow. Fast. She knew something I didn't say out loud. Later, Dad went to take a call. My brother stepped outside to smoke. That left me alone with her. The room felt smaller. "Why did you really come back?" she asked quietly. I looked at her. At the same face I once trusted more than anyone. "Because I was invited," I said. "By my own father." She shook her head. "You don't understand. You shouldn't be here." Her voice cracked. I took a step closer. 7 years ago, you told me to leave. You said it was for the best. Was it? Tears filled her eyes. I didn't have a choice. "You always had a choice," I replied calmly. She turned away, wiping her face quickly. "If you bring up the past now, it will destroy everything." I almost laughed. Everything was already destroyed. My brother's voice came from outside, laughing into his phone. Dad's footsteps moved down the hall. I looked back at Aisha one last time. She wouldn't meet my eyes. That's when I knew for sure. They weren't celebrating because they won. They were celebrating because they thought I didn't know. And that was their biggest mistake. Dad returned to the room first. His face was tight, his jaw locked, like he had already decided how this would end. My brother followed him a moment later, phone still in his hand, confidence still resting on his shoulders. Dad looked at me and said, "You should go now. This is family business." The words were calm, but they carried an order. The same tone he used 7 years ago. I didn't move. Instead, I reached into my bag. The room went quiet. Even the fan above us seemed loud now. My brother frowned. "What are you doing?" I pulled out a folded document. Old, but well kept. The paper was thick. Official. Real. I walked slowly to the table and slid it toward my father. The sound of paper touching would felt louder than a shout. "Read it," I said softly. Dad stared at the document, annoyed at first. Then confused. Then something changed in his eyes. His fingers tightened as he unfolded it. His lips moved as he read the first lines. The color drained from his face. My brother leaned forward. "What is this?" he asked, still smiling, still sure. Dad didn't answer. My brother grabbed the paper and scanned it quickly. His smile froze halfway. His eyes moved faster, then slower. His breath stopped. "No," he whispered. "That's not possible." Aisha let out a small sound behind them. A broken breath. It was Grandpa's real will. Not the one they showed the lawyer. Not the one that appeared after I left. This one had dates, signatures, witness stamps, and my name. Everything Grandpa owned was left to me. But only if the truth about me was hidden. Only if they lied. Dad's hand shook. "Where did you get this?" I looked at him calmly. "Grandpa gave it to me. He said some people don't deserve the truth right away." Silence swallowed the room. My brother slammed the paper down. "You planned this. You waited." "I waited," I said, cutting him off, "because I needed you to feel safe first." Aisha stepped forward, tears running down her face. "I thought he would never come back," she cried. "I thought it was over." I turned to her. "You helped hide it." She nodded slowly, ashamed. "They said you would destroy the family. They said this was the only way." Dad finally spoke, his voice low and broken. "You let me believe you betrayed us." I met his eyes. "You let yourself believe it." No one argued. The truth sat between us, heavy and unmoving. Dad sank into his chair. My brother stared at the floor, his future slipping away in silence. Aisha covered her face, shaking. I didn't smile. I didn't raise my voice. I felt empty and free. I didn't come back to take revenge, I said quietly. I came back to end the lie. I picked up my bag and walked toward the door. Behind me, no one followed. Before stepping outside, I stopped and said one last thing. You already took my 7 years. Now you'll live with the truth every day. Then I left.